Is Stetson Bennett the best Georgia Bulldog quarterback in program history? That is the question that I have for you today. And before you change the video, call me crazy, all that good stuff, just stick with me real quick because I do think that I can make the case that Stetson Bennett is the best quarterback in program history. But before I dig into that, I think it's important to go over the factors of what you think makes the best quarterback in program history. If it's all-time wins, I think you'd have to talk about David Greene being one of the best in program history. If it's overall talent, I think Matthew Stafford has the edge there, obviously, right? Or Fran Tarkenton for some of the old timers who have found YouTube and have found this channel. Thank you very much. If it's about stats, then Aaron Murray has to be your guy because not only does he lead Georgia in the career passing yards and touchdown mark, but he also leads the SEC in those numbers too. So in my opinion, Aaron Murray is one of the greatest quarterbacks, not only in Georgia history, but in the SEC as well. So this all depends on, what your definition of the best is. And when I go back and look at the comments section, which we always do, this is the best comment section of any channel on YouTube, in our opinion, I think I am going to see a lot of different answers here. And I'm going to break all these guys down and explain why each one have a case. But I do want to talk about Stetson Bennett real quick because I think he has a little bit of everything. He hasn't won as many games as David Greene, but he also hasn't been a four-year starter and had the opportunity to. He doesn't have the stats that Aaron Murray has and will likely not get anywhere close to that, even though he'll be starting in basically his third year this upcoming season. And he doesn't have the talent that Matthew Stafford has, or, again, Fran Tarkenton. But the guy's a winner. He just won Georgia's biggest game in the last 40 years. He's the best quarterback Georgia's had that won a national championship. He's beaten Alabama. He's beaten Michigan. He's beat the Gators. He's beaten Auburn twice. I mean, the guy's almost asked, he's done everything that he's kind of been asked of him to this point. Now, there are still plenty of Stetson Bennett haters out there because he's not 6'5" with a rocket arm. But even though his arm is better than a lot of people, give him credit for. I mean, the ball he threw to A.D. Mitchell, one of the biggest passes in program history, went 50 yards in the air. The pass to Kyrus Jackson for a touchdown against the Gators went over 50 yards in the air. The two passes down the sideline to Jermaine Burton and James Cook, two unbelievably perfect balls down the field. So the guy has more arm strength than people realize. And I mean, his legend is only going to grow. If the dude comes out and leads Georgia to an SEC championship, another playoff appearance, and a possible national championship, he is number one on this list. Now, he has to do it first, but if we're talking about, is he the best at this, or this? Probably not. There are other quarterbacks who have played at Georgia who, again, have won more games, put up better numbers, and, have more arm talent, right? But he's got a little bit of everything, and that's why I think you could make the case that Stetson Bennett, if he has one more exceptional year, could be the best quarterback in Georgia program history when his time is up. Now, again, going back to David Greene, for a lot of you new viewers, if you're kind of a young Georgia fan, unfortunately, you may not remember David Greene, although for a lot of people, it feels like it was just yesterday. But four-year starter from 2001 to 2004, SEC champion in 2002. The guy won games. He won 42 games, I think, was the SEC record at the time, passing Peyton Manning. So the guy won ball games. He's got an SEC championship under his belt. And he was a consistent 250 yards a game, 2 to 3 touchdowns each and every game. Had, again, one of the biggest throws in Georgia program history against Auburn in 2002 on the 4th and 15 that sent Georgia to the Eastern, crown and to their first SEC championship appearance. So he's got the legend. He's got the throws. He's got the wins. Right? Didn't play in the NFL, although he was, I think, a 3rd or 4th round pick. But his arm talent wasn't as good as maybe others. And he really couldn't move a whole lot, but the guy has his moments in Georgia. Aaron Murray, again, if he plays for Georgia last year, they probably win a national championship. And he was one tip pass away from leading Georgia to a national championship. And that 2012 SEC title game, I know Georgia fans don't want to hear any more about that game, as heartbreaking as it was. That was the national championship. And in my eyes, Georgia played for a national title in 2012. Everyone knew. The entire college football world knew that Georgia or Alabama, whoever won that game, the SEC championship, was going to absolutely blow Notre Dame out of the water. Unfortunately, that was Alabama. But Aaron Murray got them there close. He led one of the most explosive Georgia offenses in program history that year. And just didn't have any weapons, really, in the following year, 2013. But Aaron Murray is a Georgia legend. He's an SEC legend. And I think you could make the case that Aaron Murray is the best Georgia quarterback in program history. I will listen to that. Of course, course, Matthew Stafford was the most talented to ever come through. Rocket arm. Everyone knew that when he went to Georgia, was a 5-star out of Texas because of his rocket cannon right arm. Matthew just could absolutely sling it. And he had his moments too. If there was a playoff system in 2007, you could make the case that Georgia could have won the national championship that year. I think early losses to South Carolina and Tennessee kind of ruined that season. Really wasn't Matthew's fault, but he played on a team that the defense got better and better as the season went on, and he played better and better as the season went on. In 2008, had Georgia #1 in the country going into the season, but of course Florida was better, and that season did not, come into fruition the way they wanted. But the dude was #1 NFL draft pick, right? He was the most talented quarterback the program's ever seen. And his college numbers won't exactly reflect that, especially because he was thrown into the fire as a freshman on a bad team in 2006. But he got better and better as the season went on and ended that year on a great note against Virginia Tech, winning that Peach Bowl against them, and then turning it on in 2007, although, with those early 2 losses kind of being the black mark of that year. But if you told me that Matthew Stafford was the best quarterback in Georgia program history, I would hear you out, and I would understand why you think that. So there's a lot of different ways to look at this. At the end of the day, I think Stetson Bennett probably deserves more credit than he's been giving. And I think that in a few years down the road, depending on how he does this upcoming season, because Jake Fromm's legacy was getting better and better, and then he kind of fell apart and did not end his career the way I think a lot of people thought or expected him to. So he definitely had his moments, but there's no earthly possible way you could talk about Jake Fromm being the #1 quarterback in program history. I would listen to it, an argument for Stetson Bennett. I'd listen to one for David Greene. I'd listen to one for Aaron Murray. I'd listen to one for Matthew Stafford. And again, as crazy as it sounds, I was not around watching Georgia football in the 60 years ago, so I did not see Fran Tarkenton play. But if we're talking about overall talent coming through the program, he's probably #2 behind Matthew Stafford. He was excellent at Georgia. Almost kind of changed the position in a way. The dude was scrambling and running like nobody's business, and did that in the NFL too. Was a very good NFL quarterback as well. So again, if we're bringing mobility into the conversation, then yeah, Stetson Bennett definitely has to be towards the top of this. He ran better than I think Aaron Murray. He definitely ran more effectively than Matthew Stafford and David Greene did, and even Jake Fromm. So I think Stetson Bennett might be the best running quarterback Georgia's had since probably DJ Shockley, and before that, Quincy Carter. Again, I love DJ Shockley, but him only being the Georgia starting quarterback for 1 year, as good as that year was, winning an SEC title in 2005, he cemented his legacy at Georgia, but you can't talk about DJ being the best quarterback in program history. But I would listen to a debate for Stetson Bennett, and I know there are plenty of Stetson haters out there. A lot of them are on this channel. They would rather see the guy with the better arm, the higher rated guy out of high school be the quarterback. And I think Carson Beck is a very good quarterback. I think Brock Vandagriff still has the ability to be an SEC, winning quarterback at Georgia. And I think Gunnar Stockton has a bright future as well. So I understand why people want to see those guys. But if Stetson Bennett comes out, especially if the dude goes 15-0, beats an Alabama team that people think are the best team in the country going into this season, maybe beats Notre Dame or Ohio State or USC or whoever in the playoff, I think Stetson Bennett probably is the #1 quarterback in program history at that point. I think he's made a case for it so far in his career. Again, I think Matthew Stafford's the only guy other than Stetson Bennett who has beaten Alabama, Florida, Auburn multiple times, and Georgia Tech as well. So what he's done is in the record books, and again, he's made some of the biggest throws in program history in that national championship game, and he won arguably the biggest game in program history. I think this past Georgia-Alabama national championship, if we're talking all-time wins in over 100 years, I guess, of Georgia football, that's the biggest win. That is above Georgia and Notre Dame. Now, you probably have to ask people who were around for that Georgia-Notre Dame game, but I'm not sure that it was as important or as significant. It was a big deal, obviously. It's a national championship game against Notre Dame, but did it mean as much as this past national championship game after 40 plus years, after what Alabama had done to Georgia in recent memory? I think Stetson Bennett in Georgia's last game of last season, winning the national championship, that was Georgia's biggest win in program history, and he led it. He didn't play great for 3 quarters, but he stepped up in that 4th quarter and made some gigantic throws. So at the end of the day, Again, it might sound crazy to a lot of people, but I think you could make the case that Stetson Bennett is the best quarterback in program history. And I'll have to put a caveat at the end if I'm getting that word correctly. I went to Kennesaw State, so my vocabulary isn't outstanding, but he has to follow it up with a big season upcoming, and I think he's going to. So I expect another big year out of Stetson Bennett. I expect him to continue proving the haters wrong, and possibly help lead Georgia to another national championship. We'll see, but I think that his legacy is probably better than what people think right now, and I would listen to the case for Stetson Bennett and the other three of best quarterback in program history. What do you think? What matters the most to you? Is it wins, stats, winning a national championship, overall talent? You let me know. I expect a lot of different answers in the comments section, guys. Appreciate y'all watching this video. As always, let us know what you think. We love reading it, and I will see you over on Dog Post.